Police did not release the name of a suspect and said they don't have a person of interest at this time. However, they did say that they don't have a person of interest at this time.
1-inch sway bar install. Let's take a look at what we got here. Pretty simple. Actually, very simple. Probably the most simple thing that there is to install suspension-wise on just about any classic car. They're pretty easy to put in. Usually you don't have to take anything off to do it. I ordered this from Open Tracker, but because I like ordering from Open Tracker, but this particular sway bar actually is a Scott Drake. I know. Go ahead and hate. Came directly from Holley. If I'd have known that, I probably would have just ordered it straight from Holley, although Open Tracker's price was a little bit cheaper than direct from Holley, so at any rate, I guess it was probably a good idea. So we'll get this installed. The car handles well, but it definitely, the body definitely rolls in the turns. Let me see if I can explain what a sway bar does. And there's some good information on the internet about this, but let me see if I can show it. Imagine, if you will, that this is the car, or the frame, or the body of the car, in this case, a unibody, and this is your suspension. What happens when you go around a turn without a sway bar, or actually an anti-sway bar is really what it is, but everybody calls it a sway bar. What happens is the body will roll as it compresses this side and this end comes up. Both directions. Okay? You actually don't want that to happen. That causes the body to roll, it throws the CG off. Kind of makes it feel like the car is going to roll over. That's what it really does. When you link these two control arms together with this sway bar, the lower control arms, it makes this kind of work together as a unit. And it's really hard for me to show you with my crappy-ass utility knife and a couple of parts. But it keeps that body from rolling. So it makes it, when you make a turn, it makes the whole thing kind of move as one unit. But you don't get a bunch of body roll and a bunch of preload in the suspension. It kind of stops that from happening. That's the best way I can describe it, which is really shitty, but that's okay. You guys get the idea. If you do a quick search on Google about what a anti-sway bar does, or a sway bar does, I'd be willing to bet there's probably a lot of good information out there. So anyways, the kit does come with polyurethane bushings. This all came with it. These are polyurethane mounts. Very easy to do. You know, these have a slit in them. That's how you put them on the bar. You do put a little bit of polyurethane grease in there, which I may or may not still have some laying around here. If not, I'll probably do the stupid thing and use some molly grease. But at any rate, this is 1 inch. The one that's in the car that came with these, I believe, is like 1/2 inch. This will kind of screw up the ride a little bit. It won't be quite as nice of a ride, but it certainly will make it handle better. And from what I understand, I talked to a lot of people that have installed the 1 inch sway bar, which is what this is. And they said it makes a world of difference in the handling. So I wasn't going to change it. I did replace all the bushings on the original sway bar. The original sway bar is in there, but it does roll just a little bit too much when I take the turns. And so really, I just want to see what the difference is. And this is not something that you can't undo. You know, if I'm not happy with it, or if the ride's too stiff, I'll just simply swap it out. So not a terribly expensive thing. I think it was $160 shipped or something like that. So we'll get it installed. It's pretty easy. Okay, so should we see how fast we can do this? Let's see. So we're going to start out with taking this off on both sides. So this is the lower control arm connection right here, and these can be pretty tight. We'll see if my little ratchet can do it. Not quite. I was feeling some gumption. I'd get my impact out and it would speed this up, but we just need to get it a little bit loose. And it does help to lift the car up. I'm being lazy, and I have not lifted the car up. And now the old one is going to be easier to get off because it's not as heavy duty as the new one. So, but that's all you got to do. Now you can see obviously I've replaced the hardware on this. Well, I'm not going to need that anymore though. The new one came with new hardware. That's it. We got to do the same thing on the other side. Alright, both sides are off. So that just leaves the two mounts, which are very easy to get off, you can see. So we're just going to take the bolts off. Obviously, I have the hardware hung down like this. I think it's easier to put together like this. Don't try and put it with the bolt up. You'll be fighting it. So just take those out. I'm going to reuse the hardware. This is new grade 8 hardware that I put on the mounts. So all you gotta do is just pop those guys off, and this thing comes right out in your teeth. All right, so just real quick here, you can see the difference. So I've still got to put grease on these. I think we'll put a little Molly on that. Molly helps get you through all kinds of things, and that'll be that. We can just install it. Like I said, you know, I took this off last, so these on first, and then it can hang there and you can deal with getting these in, which is a little bit harder. We'll show that. Okay, so just get these lubed up so they move freely. You don't want them binding. So Molly's not the right grease to use on it, so that's why we used it. And you're supposed to use that, it's a kind of a heavier silicone-based grease. But I don't have any, and this will work. All right, so now let's not get ahead of ourselves here, folks. As you can see, I've got it hanging here. One mount and the other mount, of course, on the other side. I'm going to leave this loose. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit, but I'm going to leave it loose because this does have adjustment built into it. That'll make it easier to get the ties, the lower control arm ties installed. If you tighten this up, you could rack it a little bit, you know, and kind of preload it in a way that it's not really meant to be. It just will make it easier to put it together. So yeah, just tighten this up a little bit, and then you can install it. Okay, so just a couple of notes on installing these new ones. The bolt comes in from the bottom up, obviously, the way that you took it apart. I like to grease these points right here. Now this section right here will be the sway arm, or the sway bar. This section here will be the lower control arm. There should have been two cups when you took it apart, separate from the hardware that's on here. So the regular washers that are on here that held the polyurethane or rubber bushings or whatever. These go in. These are reinforcements for the lower control arms. Those go in between here. Make sure you don't forget to put those in there. If you don't have them, you should have them in there. I recommend getting them just because it does kind of shore up that sheet metal on that lower control arm. So, you know, make sure that you've got that. Now, obviously, this has all got to come apart when I get underneath there. But the first thing that's going to happen is this washer is going on, this bushing's going on. We're going to put a little bit of grease in these cups. And again, these go on either side of the lower control arm, bottom and top, to kind of sandwich that sheet metal. Okay, so we're jumping ahead here just a little bit, but it's okay. It'll benefit, trust me. So I've assembled one side so far, and what you're going to find is that you can barely just get the nut started, which is okay. There's a lot of compression that's got to go on here with using the screw to kind of jack the thing together. What you want to try and make sure of is that you get those cups. Remember that I was talking about the supporting cups? You got to get them centered into the lip of the hole on the control arm. So there's a little lip on these cups, and you got to get that situated so that it pops in there. Okay, and you might have to jack the car up and move it around to get it to do it. I think I've got it in here. So, but anyways, we're gonna leave this one like this. We're not gonna tighten this one down yet. Now we want to go get the other side in before we tighten this one down. Okay, so let's see if I can get this in here while I've got the camera in the way and everything. Like I'd mentioned before, you know, make sure you put a little bit of grease on these guys. Really just in the areas where it's going to kind of rub up against the control arm cup and stuff like that. You know, you don't really, I don't know that you need to put it on the back side of every single one of these washers or not. I might do it. But I didn't on the other side, so why would I do it here? Anyways, put your cup on here. All right. Okay, so I put the cup on there for the control arm, and it's ready to go up through the hole that I can't see, but I can certainly feel it. So that went in there. And this is where the fun kind of begins. I'll put a little bit on a bushing here, a little bit of grease. I know you can't see it, but trust me, I'm doing it. I've got my cup, and I got my bushing, and then I'm going to have another washer. And these washers are directional too, by the way. You want it to cup the bushing, see? Okay. So that's the first set. Then you get to put the spacer on here. Okay. See how fun this is? Put the next washer facing up because it's got to cup the bushing up. Okay. A little grease on our bushing. Face the bushing up because it's going up into the sway bar. Okay, now it gets a little bit easier. So, and I know you probably can't see the top side of the sway bar. Maybe if I move the camera, I hope there really isn't a place for me to move it. You can sort of see it there. Yeah, you can sort of see it. Okay, our next bushing, we're going to face it with the lip on the bushing facing down now because that lip is a keeper. So this side down, the lip is a keeper. Have I said that enough? Okay. And I can already tell this one's probably going to fight me a little bit because I'm running out of bolt. So this is where you might have to jack the car up to get it to get it into position, but we're going to fight it here and see. I can see my lower cup is not in place. That's part of my problem. And what sucks about this is if I can't get that nut on there, I think I might get it. I think I can probably get it. And then you got to take it all apart, but I got it. So that's all you got to do is just get it started. Now that we got it started, we can kind of get the thing positioned. And as you tighten it, it's going to preload this, and it's going to kind of settle into place. So just make sure you got these cups for the control arm, which it looks like this one might just be a little bit out of place. Maybe not. No, it's good. Now we can just tighten it. Now you're going to just tighten it until it really till it stops. So we're just going to do that now. The electric ratchet or your air ratchet or whatever isn't going to quite have enough to get you where you want to be, but it'll be close. So let's see. And as you do this, just try and kind of control it and get it to settle in. It'll go in there on its own though. Okay, we can tighten the other side now. Okay, so now how tight is tight enough? I would say even is more important. You don't want to make it tighter on one side than the other, and it's really just a matter of how much the urethane wants to compress. Don't flatten it, but get it to compress some. It's kind of a touchy-feely thing, in my opinion. That's my opinion. So, you know, what do we got? About 3/4 of an inch sticking out there. Maybe Scott Drake or somebody's got some recommendation on that, but I don't know, this is just the way I've always done it. So now that those are even on both sides, we're just gonna tighten up these guys now that everything's kind of evened out, and that's it. It's done. It's time for a test drive. Definitely a lot more road feel in the front now. It feels pretty good. It's a little bit heavier in front as far as the as far as the feeling of the road. It's a little stiffer. Jeez, I can't find my words as usual. But it seems pretty good. We'll take a couple of turns up here and I'll let you know how it feels. Pretty big difference around the turns. The body roll is gone. It's totally gone. So this is a winner for sure. Everybody says a 1-inch sway bar is the way to go, and I have to agree. What a difference. Oh man, it handles so much better. I mean, can't even compare. Well, folks, that should wrap this one up. Definitely put a 1-inch sway bar on your car, whether you got a 6 or a 8, doesn't matter. It just changed the way that this thing handles drastically. Just different animal. I can't wait to really get it out on a good windy road. Sepulveda, PCH. Probably do that Sunday, Cars and Coffee. So anyways, we'll wrap this one up. Definitely worth doing for the little money that it costs.